Genesis 27. We got through 29 verses last Sunday night, so we'll do a quick review. Isaac is thinking he's going to die, and we question how old he really is, but he thinks he can die. He thinks he's going to die, and he has problems with his eyes, and it blinds him not only physically but spiritually, that he's motivated by his desires rather than God's word and God's instructions. So we're challenged with the fact that when we look at our own desires, our own wants, even our own lusts, how do they blind us to what God and His Word tell us? So he calls his son Esau, says, "Go kill a deer, fix me some food." And amazingly, in spite of all the disobedience we've seen in Esau's life, he chooses to obey at this point because maybe in part he's going to get a benefit. He's going to get the blessing from his father. So we were challenged in that aspect with why are we willing to obey sometimes but not all the time, or sometimes and not other times. His mother and Isaac's wife, Rebekah, overhears all of this, and she has a plan to manipulate and to trick her husband to get Jacob the blessing. And we're not sure why she's doing all this, but it might simply be because she wants to make sure her favorite son gets the blessing, or she knows that God's plan is for Jacob to get the blessing, and so she's going to help God to make sure that happens. And if that's the case, we were challenged by the idea of in what ways do we try to help God do His job or help God do what He should do. And we looked at the idea repeatedly, and even as we go through tonight and maybe even next week, the dynamics of this dysfunctional family. They impacted everyone in the family. And so we were looking at those of us that are parents or grandparents, how do our choices impact our family? And what can you do, or how can you change that if they're not impacting them in the right way, but as this family, they're impacting them negatively or in ungodly ways? So at the end of the section we handled last week, Jacob, who's dressed up like his brother, tricks his father, he gets the blessing, and that's kind of where we ended things. So we're going to pick up in verse 30 of chapter 27. Now it happened as soon as Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, and Jacob had scarcely gone from the presence of Isaac his father, that Esau his brother came in from his hunting. What happens as soon as Jacob leaves? What's that? Big brother, yeah, the older brother, by a few minutes, and he comes in from his hunting. So Jacob and Rebekah have gotten away with this, right? He got out, he got away, no one caught him, his father didn't catch him, and Esau didn't catch him. So here's what Esau does. He also had made savory food, verse 31, brought it to his father, and said to his father, "Let my father now arise and eat his son's game, that your soul may bless me." And his father Isaac said to him, "Who are you?" So he said to him, "I am your firstborn Esau." What is Isaac now confronted with? Deception. What might he be thinking? Oops, okay. What else might he be thinking? That he's not. Okay. I'm already full. Put it in the fridge. We'll put it in the microwave later. Who is Jacob thinking the real Esau is at this point? The guy that just left or the guy that just came in? I don't know. He's going to figure it out here in a minute. We know that. But at this point, he knows at least he's either about to be deceived or he was deceived. He doesn't know which quite yet. But he realizes that something bad has taken place. Verse 33, Then Isaac trembled exceedingly and said, Where is the one who hunted game and brought it to me? I ate all of it before you came, and I have blessed him, and indeed he shall be blessed. So he tells the real Esau what he's done. But what is his initial reaction when he hears the fact that he's been deceived, or recognize that he's been deceived. Okay, confusion, trembling. So New King James says, I got to find the right verse here. It trembled exceedingly. Is there any other different translations? Very violently. Okay, what did you say, Althea? Very exceedingly. Why does Isaac have this reaction? This is a physical reaction to the realization that he has been deceived. Gave his blessing away to the wrong one. What realization may he have just come to, other than I blessed the wrong son? Yeah. I came across this statement, and I thought it struck me. Isaac realizes his plans have been thwarted, but God's plans stand. He realizes that he tried to outsmart God, tried to do what he wanted, and God still got exactly what he said was going to happen. He is realizing the fact that I tried it, and God still did exactly what he told me was going to happen all those years ago. God's plans stand. So that's his reaction. What is Esau's reaction? Verse 34, when Esau heard the words of his father, he cried out with an exceedingly great and bitter cry, and said to his father, bless me also, O my father. So what does he still want from his father? A blessing. So let's go back up and look at what blessing that was given to Jacob. Verse 28. Therefore, may God give you of the dew of heaven, of the fatness of the earth, and plenty of grain and wine. Verse 29, let peoples serve you, and nations bow down to you. Be master over your brethren. Bless you. And let your mother's son bow down before you. Cursed be everyone who curses you, and blessed be everyone who blesses you. What kind of wiggle room did he leave for Esau in there? Not much left. Can you think of, I tried to think of it, what maybe he could say as a blessing, but there's not much left. His blessing was very broad and very gracious to his son, who he thought was Esau. And so Esau says, can you do anything for me? And here's Isaac's response. But he, Isaac, said, verse 35, your brother came with deceit and has taken away your blessing. So, who's at fault that Esau is not going to be blessed by his father? Who does Isaac blame? Jacob. He came. Now, did he came in deceit? Yes. Who took away the blessing that normally would have been given to Esau? Was it Jacob? God said, I have other plans. This is not going to be the normal situation. You're not going to do things the cultural way. You're going to do them my way. I don't know why Isaac doesn't bother telling him this, but he doesn't. He blames it on Jacob. 36, Esau said, is he not rightly named Jacob? For he has supplanted me 2 times. He took away my birthright, and now look, he has taken away my blessing. What does Esau have to say about his brother? He tells it like it is. Yeah, he says, is he not rightly named Jacob? For he has supplanted, he has Jacobed me twice. Now, is that true? Did he deceive Esau twice? No. What happened with the first time? Esau's gluttony. And what does the narrator or the author tell us that Esau thought of his birthright that he now thinks is a big deal. Yeah. Some translations say he despised it. He didn't put value on it, so he gave it up freely or cheaply, maybe is a better idea. And he says, look, but now it's Jacob's fault. The end of verse 36, he says, and he said, have you not reserved a blessing for me? So he's still begging his father for a blessing. Is there anything left, any way you can bless me? Then Isaac answered and said to Esau, indeed I have made him, talking about Jacob, your master, and all his brethren I have given to him as servants. With grain and wine I have sustained him. What shall I do now for you, my son? How does Isaac explain the magnitude of the blessing he's given to Jacob? There's nothing left. Did Isaac have to bless Jacob the way he did? No. Why did he do it? Yeah, because he thought it was Esau. I'm gonna pull one over and he's gonna get everything. This is not normally the way blessings work, where everything goes to the firstborn. They get more, yes, but not everything. But he wanted to make sure that Esau got as much as he could. But he ended up giving it to the wrong son. 38, Esau said to his father, have you only one blessing, my father? Bless me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. How distraught is Esau at this point? I don't know. He certainly wanted the blessing. Whether he's sad he didn't get it or angry that his brother got it, I don't know. But he certainly wanted that blessing from his father. And he thinks, in some sense, I have earned it. I deserve it. So here's what Isaac says to his son. Isaac, his father, answered and said, behold, your dwelling shall be of the fatness of the earth and the dew of heaven from above. Sounds pretty good, right? By your sword you shall live. You shall serve your brother, and it shall come to pass, when you become restless, that you shall break his yoke from your neck. What kind of life is he being blessed, and I'll put that in quote, blessed with? A military, a man who's always at war, a man who's in bondage or in slavery, servitude. Compare the two blessings. What stands out to you, one versus the other? Carl, being the farmer, catches that. There's a lot more work to get any kind of reward for Esau. The blessing was just supposed to happen to Jacob. What else? Still, yeah, he didn't change that. He's still a servant to his brother. I don't understand that one, because that's exactly what he said to Jacob. Therefore may God give you the dew of the heaven and of the fatness of the earth. Maybe it was a standard blessing phrase that it just comes as every part of the blessing. I don't know. But it does seem odd that both of them got the same thing. But other than that, Esau is almost the opposite of Jacob. As Carl noted, there's a lot more effort to get anything out of what God has blessed them. So, what's going to happen at the end of, or according to verse 40, at the end of verse 40, what is going to happen to Esau at some point in the future? Rebellion. Has that part of the blessing been fulfilled? Do you know? Some of you may have a footnote in your Bible, I don't know, or a cross-reference. It has, in 2 Kings chapter 8, here's what it says. In his days, Edom revolted against Judah's authority and made a king over themselves. So Joram went to Zaire, and all his chariots with him. Then he rose by night and attacked the Edomites, who surrounded him, and the captains of the chariots. And the troops fled to their tents. Thus Edom has been in revolt against Judah's authority to this day. And if you remember correctly, that's one of Esau's other names, is Edom. So in 2 Kings chapter 8, he came to the point, it came to pass that he became restless and he broke the yoke. He rebelled, like his people, his descendants rebelled against Judah, Jacob's descendants. So the blessing fiasco is done. Isaac has been manipulated. The only thing that we can say positive out of all that is God's plan that he promised before the boys were born has been fulfilled. Not the way God would have preferred it, but even over sin, God is sovereign. Verse 41, so Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing with which his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are at hand, and then I will kill my brother Jacob. How well has Esau handled this disappointment? He needs an intervention. Jim said he needs to go into timeout. Do you think that's going to happen in this family? No. How many of you have had one sibling, one child be angry enough and want to at least hit another, not kill them, but hit one? It's not an uncommon occurrence, right? Especially with toddlers when they're trying to learn these things. So when that happened, how do you as parents, or how did you as parents deal with that? Work it out, okay. Was there any kind of corrective action taken against the child who acted out physically? I'm not saying there's only one method, but you at least did parenting. You parented them. This is wrong, this is right. Because you don't want to get to this point where one child wants to kill the other. And they're adults, and maybe you don't have any control over them. I question with what we've seen how well they did, preventive parenting or proactive parenting. But somewhere Esau has learned that anger and responding in anger will get him what he wants. And so he is going to do that, or at least planning to do that. And when the words of Esau, her older son, were told to Rebekah, so in verse 41, where is the conversation, or how is this information given to us? Where is it taking place? In Esau's head, or in his heart. So at some point he went from thinking about it to telling at least one other person about it, or talking about it, so that someone heard it and told Rebekah. So, as a mom, if you heard this about one of your adult children regarding the other, what would you do? So the fact that Jacob's her favorite complicates things. Okay. Maybe we should say, what should you do? What's that, Carol? Keep them apart. Okay. Yeah, that might be another option. Put them together, work through it, hopefully with some witnesses so that things don't get out of hand. Knowing what you know about Rebekah, do you think she's going to do wise parenting? She's going to do conflict resolution, peacemaking? No, I don't think so. So let's see what she does. I know that you know, but and the words of Esau, her older son, were told to Rebekah. So she sent and called Jacob, her younger son, and said to her, surely your brother Esau comforts himself concerning you by intending to kill you. How would you like to hear that about your brother or your sister? It could be a sister. You know, that's probably not something I'd want to hear about my brother, that he wants to kill me. Now, therefore, my son, obey my words, arise, flee to my brother Laban in Haran. So her solution is, you send him, go see my family. Go visit your grandparents, your cousins, your aunts, your uncles. Instead of dealing with the problem, she sends them away. Now, I understand maybe she needs to protect him, but there's also a serious issue in this family. We talked about the fact that Edom and the Edomites are descendants of Esau. Way back when we started this series, we talked about that God is working through a lineage, a seed, descendants, to get the Genesis chapter 3, the one who will crush the head of the serpent. And we've seen him do that with a childless couple and providing miraculously a seed, and then all of the things that followed. What is what is Esau trying to do to the chosen seed now? Get rid of him. Now, we talked also about antecedent theology, looking back and looking forward in the Bible. Do you know who in the New Testament is connected with the nation or the lineage of Edom? King Herod. What did he try to do to the ultimate seed? Destroy him. Yeah. So you can see the connections that come from all the choices that have been made and the responses, and then the nation of Edom, even this blessing that was given about Esau, about Edom, that he was going to be rebellion and continued to be in rebellion. Here's her instructions. Flee to my brother Laban and stay with him a few days until your brother's fury turns away. How soon does she expect this solution to work? A couple of days. Well, I'm sure that with the trip and all that, it'd be a little longer, but we know that he spent like decades there. I don't think that was her original plan, but she sends him. Until your brother's anger turns away from you, and he forgets what you have done to him. Do you really think Esau's going to forget? No. Wishful thinking, Mom. Until he forgets what you have done to him, and I will send and bring you from there. Why should I be bereaved also of you both in one day? So what is the motivation behind Rebekah's plan? To save his life, but how does she fit into it? What does she gain? Yeah, she's trying to make sure she has at least one son alive, and preferably the one she really likes. I like you. I want you around, so I don't have to mourn the fact that my favorite son has been killed by my not so favorite son. And Rebekah said to Isaac, she's going to tell him all this, right? Here's what your son did. Here's why I'm sending the other son away. I am weary of my life because of the daughters of Heth. If Jacob takes a wife of the daughters of Heth, like those who are in the daughters of the land, what good will my life be to me? How does she explain to Isaac why she's sending Jacob away? Find him a good wife. What does she conveniently not inform her husband of? The murder plot. Where were her thoughts and desires and motivations focused? Her son? Where else? Herself? Certainly not on the truth. Certainly not dealing with the problem. Certainly not addressing the issue of anger to the point in her family that murder is being talked about. What consequences are her actions going to bring? By sending Jacob away, by not telling her husband, not dealing with the problem, what long-term consequences are we going to see in Jacob's descendants? Okay, they won't know their grandmother. Yeah, what happens with certain sons of Jacob in the future, right? You know, and what did he do? He chose favorites, just like mom and dad. How many? Go ahead, Althea. Good. How many wives is Jacob going to end up with? Too many. 4, I believe. Yeah, I didn't go back to look, but Rachel, Leah, and I think a handmaid from each of them. You know, certainly the dysfunctional family bled over into the next generation. How often do we think about the consequences of our actions and choices? And I'm not talking about big things, because we do tend to think about them with big things, but a lot of little choices led up to this point. A lot of little choices to sin, to not do marriage and family and parenting God's way. So when we choose to sin, how often do we even think about, well, if I'm going to make this choice, I'm going to choose to sin here. What's the consequences down the road? How might this impact my family, my children, my grandchildren? Isaac and Rebekah did not. They were focused on themselves and what they wanted and getting their desires met, not about the idea of what consequences might come of them. So 28 is Isaac's response. Then Isaac called Jacob and blessed him and charged him and said to him, "You shall not take a wife from the daughters of Canaan." Now that's not a bad thing, because that's what his dad did for him, chose a woman who was of his own line and hopefully less idolatrous. "Arise, go to Padan Aram, to the house of Bethuel, your mother's father. Take for yourself a wife from there from the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother." So basically, what is he telling Jacob to do? Go marry his cousin. Yeah, we struggle with that, and I don't have a good answer. Obviously, it was different then than it is now, and things change even when the law comes around. Who gave these instructions previously, or similar ones? Abraham gave them to his servant. Go find a wife, the same place, the same family. So he's basically telling Jacob, this is what was, he didn't say it, but I'm sure he knew, this is what was done for me. I want you to go do the same thing. Choose to find a woman, a wife there rather than here. And then he gives Jacob another blessing. Here it is. "May God Almighty bless you, make you fruitful and multiply you, that you may be an assembly of peoples, and give you the blessing of Abraham, to you and your descendants with you, that you may inherit the land in which you are a stranger, which God gave to Abraham." What does Isaac want, or what kind of blessing does he give to Jacob? It's the covenant. What does this at least give us a little hope for about Isaac in reference to what just happened with his attempt to bless Esau? He's on track. He recognizes that, we talked about that statement that I read. He realized his plans have been thwarted, but God's plans stand. I think this is his point where he says, God's plans stand, I'm going to get on board. I'm going to accept the fact that this is God's plan, and I'm going to get on board and say, you know what? Jacob is the one who's going to carry on the lineage, who's going to provide the seed that was promised in Genesis chapter 3. He is going to be the one God uses to fulfill the promises he gave to Abraham. So at least at this level, in this point, Isaac's on board saying, okay, God, I get it. Jacob's your guy. You chose him. I tried to fix it. I tried to do it my way. You won. I'm going to say, you know what? I'll go with your plan this time. I just took out of time. We got time for a few more verses. So we'll follow through to, I think, verse 9. So Isaac sent Jacob away. He went to Paddan-aram to Laban, son of Bethuel, the Syrian, the brother of Rebekah, the mother of Jacob and Esau. So that's kind of a summary statement about what's going to happen. We're going to see moving forward the process of getting him from the promised land back to where his mother was from. So now Esau is going to realize what happens, and then he's going to respond to all that's happened. Verse 6, Esau saw that Isaac had blessed Jacob and sent him away to Paddan-aram to take himself a wife from there, and that he had blessed him and gave him a charge, saying, you shall not take a wife from the daughters of Canaan, and that Jacob had obeyed his father and his mother and had gone to Paddan-aram. How do you like it when your siblings get a pat on the back, a praise from mom and dad? Not when you're adults. I know we're good at that. When you're younger, when they get the attaboy, they get the star on the calendar, they get the good grades and get recognized. How do all those that go over with the sibling who doesn't do that or didn't get that this time? Depends on how they were raised. Because what does it say? Verse 7, and that Jacob had obeyed his father and mother. He's getting praise because, put it in terms when you were a kid. Why can't you be more like Jacob? Jacob's a goody two-shoes. He doesn't always do what's right, but in this case. So if that's the case, if I see my brother, my sister, my sibling doing what's right and getting praise for it, what are your two options to respond to it? Take on the challenge and try to be more like them, or get mad and act out. Esau's going to do the right thing, right? No. Verse 8. Also, Esau saw that the daughters of the Canaanite did not please his father Isaac. Dad doesn't like it. Okay? So Esau went to Ishmael, took Mahalath, the daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son, the sister of Najorith, to be his wife, in addition to the wives he had. How does Esau respond to all that's gone on with his brother? Revenge, disobedience. Why did he choose to do this? What does verse 8 tell us? Dad doesn't like it. So I'm going to do what Dad doesn't like because I don't like what Dad did. He didn't give me the blessing. He gave it to my brother. How do you respond to your parents' wishes or those in authority over you, their wishes? Because that's what we're doing. We're talking about someone in authority over him. He's choosing to say, I know what you want. I know what pleases you. I'm going to go the other direction. When you choose, or when we choose to respond like Esau, what is our motivation? Why do we do it? Sin? Why? Let's put it this way. It's easier to answer. Why did Esau do it? What did he hope to gain? Attention? Okay. And then Dad did something else. And so he's not going to wait. So I got a couple of just kind of, because we're going to shift here. Isaac, Rebekah, and Esau kind of fade to the background. It's going to be more about Jacob moving forward. Who do you sympathize most with and least with in this story? Isaac, Rebekah, Esau, and Jacob. Isaac, because he's been deceived. Okay? Yeah, to see the people that he had chosen and he had blessed in great ways, and this is how they react. So here's kind of my summary of the characters in this account. Rebekah is deceptive and manipulative. Isaac is weak in that he's driven by his desires rather than conscience or convictions. Esau has seriously wrong priorities because all he wants to do is do the opposite of what would please his parents. Jacob is, like his mother, is a deceiver, but he's also has no principles. Now God's going to deal with that, and he's going to come back and grow in that area. Recognize the fact that these commandments have been broken in this story. Now I know the commandments haven't been given, but have no other gods before me. Getting the blessing was a god to Rebekah, to Esau, maybe even to Jacob. Giving the blessing to the right kid was a god to Isaac. Not bearing false witness, not lying. Almost everybody lied in this story. Honoring your father and mother. Certainly Jacob and Esau didn't do that. Not coveting. And yet, in all of this, Isaac is going to be listed in the Hebrews 11 in the what they call the Hall of Faith. I don't think he had a whole lot of faith. Certainly didn't have a whole lot of obedience right now. But God is looking at more than just one instance, one incident in a person's life. Aren't you glad that it's the whole picture, not just the one time you messed up the most or the one time you did the most sin? But God evaluates us all on our entire life. Questions, thoughts before we close up? We'll pick up in verse 10 of chapter 28 next week, Lord willing. Yeah, I'd forgotten about that that Isaac is recorded in Hebrews as blessing both of them. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so I'll read the verses next referring to chapter 26, verses 34. When Esau was 40 years old, he took wives, Judith, the daughter of Berai the Hittite, and Basemath, the daughter of Elon the Hittite. And they were a grief of mine to Isaac and Rebekah. So it's not the first time he's done this. So he has at least 3 wives at this point. Maybe more, who knows? I want you to think about the fact that there's encouragement in this account. God continues to bless Jacob moving forward. And we're going to see Esau is blessed. There are also challenges in this account. How we handle when we don't get what we want. How we approach parenting. How we approach choosing wives or spouses. How we interact with family that we don't like or maybe we disagree with. Think about where you fit in the account, what you can learn from the account of Jacob and Esau and the blessing and the deception. Not just, well, that's a great story for kids about how Isaac got tricked and Jacob dressed up with furs, but what can we learn, what can we apply to how we live and how we respond to real life situations that we're going to face. All right, let's close in prayer, and we'll get you to dismiss. Father, we thank you for the fact that you recorded this and ensured we could see it and read it. You didn't sugarcoat it. You showed people as they are, that they are just like us. At heart, we are sinful, we're deceptive, we're selfish, and when we don't get what we want, we respond even more sinfully. Lord, help us to learn from Jacob and Esau and Isaac and Rebekah, from their negative example, but help us also to learn about you and be reminded of the fact that you were gracious to each one of them beyond what they deserved. And that even, as we mentioned, Isaac is listed in those people who had great faith and were examples of faith, even though in this account he did not lead his family well, did not make wise choices. Lord, as we go into Monday and the week, we ask that you would be pleased with how we handle ourselves, the things we talk about, what we say, and especially in light of all that's gone on this week, may we be a testimony in our response to what has happened in the election and all that's going on. May you use this to grow us individually as a church. May we be a stronger testimony, more committed to you and your word, and committed to walking with you. May you be pleased with how we spend our time and our resources this week, and that we might use them to be a testimony, to serve you, to honor and glorify you. We thank you for the things which you allow us to do this week for you, and may you be pleased, and may you be glorified in everything that is said and done. We ask this all in your name. Amen.